Dogs and DID, to our DID and D&D session, where we're going to talk about how we can make my alters into D&D characters. So far, we have managed to look at a few of my alters. So we started off with Luna, who is unsurprisingly going to be a half unicorn bard. I think is what we decided. We have a Nita, who is an Aasimar gunslinger. We then did Danielle, who is she a high elf? Wizard. Yeah. High elf wizard for intellect. Yeah, very snobby looking down on everyone else. We have a Scarlet, who is a tiefling cleric of a death domain. Which I quite like. Then we did Loveface, who is a Firbolg, and she's a Firbolg druid. Yeah, so they are my main alters. They're the ones that are the most active in my system, which I hope will kind of give you all an idea as to how different my alters are from me. To help with that, today we're going to try and do me if I lived in D&D world, which has given me a complete identity crisis as to I don't know who I am, because some of the things I thought were like the biggest of my achievements, like my master's degree and my bachelor's degree and the business that I run, turns out most of that's Danielle. That's an alter. Like, and I'm like, okay, so my greatest achievements were actually me. They were the work me, which is good, but I'm like, I don't know what my role is, like who I am. I don't really communicate very well with my inner world like a lot of other systems do. I seem to be trapped in the real world. And I think I mentioned before that one of the other systems on Instagram were like, well, maybe it's because your role is just the host, is you're the host in the real world. Your role is to make sure that you function in the real world. And the others take care of my inner world and make sure that everyone's okay. And I'm like, okay, that kind of helps. I'm the landing page. I'm never going to live that down. Like, they're not comfortable, not all of them are comfortable with talking to other people, but they will do it through me. It just means that from the outside world, I can be very random to people, and which, you know, isn't necessarily a bad thing. It makes me different. If people, I mean, if you met me like out on the streets or in a coffee shop or a game or something, you're not going to know which me it is. And chances are I could switch right in front of you and you wouldn't even know. As happens sometimes on camera, especially with Scarlet. It's like no one would really know that was her. And even on the Nita video, you know, it was Nita the whole time. And we said it could have just been me in a bad mood. Like, yeah, because that's the main thing with disorder. For anyone that doesn't know that much about dissociative identity disorder or multiple personality disorder, as it was known, is that the whole thing is designed as a defense mechanism. It is all about safety, which is why it's so covert for a lot of people, is it's how to keep us safe. So everyone knows how to act and function as one person, even though it's not the same person that's actually in control. So it's nice that you relate it in that thing that everyone does. Sometimes they will act like me, other times they won't act like me. But anyone watching that doesn't actually know me too well will always just assume that it's me. The idea of it being someone else wouldn't cross their mind. And even those people that know that we're multiple can't always tell who's around, because we're so used to living this way, because we always have. It's a childhood disorder. So, and it is just a safety thing. So it's not a scary thing for anyone that's worried. None of the alters will ever kind of switch in and go nuts or anything. You know, it's not like Switch. But the things that affect the alters differently is the bit that fascinates me. And we were just discussing the effects of substances. And this is one that I'd love to hear about from other systems. So my little assistant's dog Nuffle, as many of you have seen on the videos, and he's over here at the minute fast asleep by my side. In a game store at the weekend, my partner and my son were playing a Pokemon battle. I was having a Magic the Gathering battle with the store owner, and people kept walking behind us to use the toilet. Some people Nuffle would just kind of watch and go by and be aware of, but wouldn't bark at. Other people he would bark at. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, he's in training. He got spooked by something a while ago. And he's like, oh, it's all right, don't worry about it. He's like, if it helps, everyone your dog has barked at so far have all smoked weed. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I have a self-trained sniffer dog. And then we got on the discussion of how would substances affect us. Now, we live in the UK, so cannabis is illegal, so it's not something that I can test. But alcohol, I've never been able to get kind of like completely drunk, like where I've not been able to be under control at some point. And my friends have always hated it because I was being the one that they keep buying shot after shot after shot after, let's all get Danny drunk. And no one's ever managed it. I will get tipsy, I will be a bit funny, but as far as like falling over and not remembering and stuff, I never get to that point. And it's always really been able to like sober up so quickly and then organize people's money, get everyone's safety and get everyone away. I never really thought too much about this. It's always been a skill that I thought I had. Now I'm curious if I do that all because of my alters. So if we feel threatened or it's in a time where we have to get home and there's a safety element, if actually a switch into Anita or maybe Sonia as like my physical protector, possibly Anita more, if that switch changes my body, I know the body itself will be drunk, but will my cognition and my ability to think change because it's a different part of the brain that will be activated? Yeah, with the alter. And like my biology and my neuroscience knowledge says no, like your brain is your brain, but I don't know enough about how switches and different alters affect your brain functions, because I know it has these partitions.
With the muscle memory, we've talked about how Luna and Scarlett have the muscle memory to make the finite items that they have that Danny doesn't have.
Yeah, I can't.
We talked about how you, as a physical being, attended martial arts lessons, but Danny never attended those martial art lessons. That was Sonia.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I tried to spar with Danny right now, Danny doesn't have the
no.
muscle memory, but Sonia does, and Sonia would probably come out. So what's interesting is, like you said, there is this element of going, well, your body and your brain is your body and your brain. It doesn't matter what personality you have at the time. But we've also seen on countless occasions throughout the discussions we've had about dissociative identity disorder that you have different muscle memory. Like that, for me, that was the thing that I didn't really even consider or think about. You know, when I've had conversations with people, they're like, that just doesn't make sense. You know, your brain and your muscle memories are your brain and your muscle memory. It doesn't matter whoever personality it is, but
yeah.
It's interesting to see, and as we said, other people let us know, you know, where that what your experiences are of alcohol and that sort of division between what you might feel in one alter state as opposed to another state, because you could argue that because the alters are, I guess, a cognitive state, that as you change those states, you change chemical balance.
Something happens, because there are studies and there are people that have DID where specific alters have allergies, so they will take out allergy medication for those allergies. There's sometimes where other alters have mental health disorders, so some alters will need antidepressants which won't affect the other alters in the system. Some have chronic health conditions, some are blind and have poor vision, so the eyesight itself will change depending on which alter is on. And that's been done in an MRI scan, where people have seen the change in the occipital nerve when person switched under a brain scan. So we know that the alters seem to be able to control the brain differently. We just don't know how or how deep it goes, because the disorder is there's such little research into it because of the stigma around it.
By nature, because of the stigma and because of the negative press that is given to such severe mental health conditions with such stigma attached to them, then there is also this element that it's quite a secretive disorder. You know, that the alters are not going to go and share their biggest secrets about what's going on. So, I mean, obviously this, again, everybody who is here watching, this is the reason why we do these things. This is why Danni has her channel. This is why people, like we mentioned last week, Multiplicity and me, do the things that they do to try and give those alters a chance to have that voice if they want to, but also have a place where it's actually okay. It's okay to be fascinated. It's okay to say, oh my God, this is the most fascinating thing. How does the brain do that?
Mm-hmm.
And have these conversations.
And not just about DID, about all mental health, because your brain is an amazing thing, and they all work in different ways, and some of them have just developed differently, like with autism spectrum disorders and things. It's like you literally have a different brain that is wired to see the world differently than a neurotypical. We're wired a bit differently. Those with bipolar have like a chemical imbalance and fluctuations that make their brain work differently. There's so much around. It just makes you different, but no less than anyone else. It's just your experiences are different, they're no less valid. But it can be really strange, and I really want to know how these different things do affect, like, me as a system. Like, if I drink a particular drink, am I gonna do that differently than others? And there are times when, like, my alters will now play tricks on me. So I remember being in town, and Scarlett was out with a couple of our friends, and we went into one of our favorite cafes, and she ordered an iced latte. Now, I'm a tea drinker. I love a cup of tea. Anita likes coffee, hot coffee. And Skittle and a lot of the systems love a hot chocolate. So if we're out, the drinks that we will either have will be a cup of tea or a hot chocolate. They're the only two drinks. Scarlett ordered an iced latte, which arrived looking like a hot chocolate but cold. So we picked it up thinking because it looked like a hot chocolate but cold, we're like, okay, maybe it's a milkshake. We were not expecting cold coffee.
Oh.
And she had switched out just in time for me to drink it. And I drank it and was like, what the hell is that? And my friend was like, you ordered it. I was like, I did not order a cold coffee. I was like, I drink tea. Or if somewhere like this, I would get a hot chocolate. I would not go for an iced latte.
Do you think, so you said she switched out just in time. Do you think that she chose that switch out? That she forcibly switched out with you?
Yeah, I do, because when I did it and I went, what the hell is this? I heard laughing in my head. Which I was really annoyed about. But, obviously. But at the same time, it was kind of nice that she felt comfortable enough to play a prank on us, essentially. Because it wasn't anything harmful. None of us are triggered badly by coffee or anything like that. It's just...
No, and,
it wasn't expected. And it was I really, really wanted a cup of tea or a hot chocolate. And I got the one drink I don't particularly like, which is a cold coffee.
But I suppose you could argue, we've talked about, it's been about, or just over a year, I think, since It was a year yesterday since I first met Dr. Mike Lloyd, who said, actually, yeah, we need to assess you for DID. And you think about it, so, the video we talked about last recording, and again, if you haven't gone and checked it out, people, please go check it out. Go check it out. Pause this, go check it out, back. Yeah. But I believe, if I'm correct, Jess has been doing this for several years now, something like 5 years, is that correct?
It's probably longer than that, because Jess, from Multiplicity and me, who I'll link again, she was diagnosed in her late teens. And she's now in her late 20s, I think, maybe 30s, I don't know. She's married and has a child now, so there's a big difference.
Yeah. And obviously you think about how long she's been on that journey and exploring. I mean, that video, the 360 video, showed that she has a very strong understanding of that headspace and the communication in that headspace with her alters. But this is a journey she's been doing for 5-10 years, whereas this is your first year in this journey. And actually, the fact is that although you sometimes feel that there's less communication between Danni and the rest of the alters, that you said earlier that you feel like Anita might talk to them actually more than even the information that comes to you. But at the same time, the fact that we're talking about one of your alters playing a prank on you and then switching out in order to watch the effect of it shows how far that wall has broken down, how much that communication is happening.
Yeah, and I watched one of my early videos, one of my coming out ones, which was the first video that I did, when I'm like, so I have this thing and I watch these videos and I'm like, I don't know what any of these people are talking about, and I was very much kind of bewildered by it all. And it's with the help of watching the videos of Multiplicity and me, watching the videos Dissociative did, me, myself, and Ailu, of kind of watching their journeys and see them talk about it, and then meeting some of them in person and kind of going, actually, I do understand what you mean. Now I actually think about it. And the awareness has grown, which is another reason why I want to do this, is that there are so many people that have this disorder that don't know they have it, because it hides itself from even you. You know, I was 33 when I was diagnosed, so I went like my whole life essentially without knowing it. And I've had quite a few people since that have been similar age range to me, kind of going, you know what, I really relate to some of the stuff that you say on these videos. And they're like, really relate, like I'm actually quite worried that I might have something. And then I'm like, well, if you do, you do, you know, you'll be fine. Like, you've seen everything I do. And it's, whereas other people watch them and go, nope, I have no idea how that's even possible, and they can't relate to it at all. And I find the distinction very different and very fascinating as to how just the people that watch it. So anyone that is watching it, just have a think about yourself. You know, how do you hear your thought patterns? Do you hear, because when we say like voices, it's not like auditory voices. I don't hear voices from external. I hear my thoughts, but not my accent. I hear different thoughts and they overlap each other, which I think is the key thing with DID, rather than people that have like racing thoughts and multiple thoughts, is my voices will talk over each other. So when I'm thinking something, I will hear another thought pattern at the same time running in stereo, almost like having multiple tabs open at the same time.
And actually, we've noticed when you do switch in and out, and that was one of the things that, although, you know, Scarlett never said that it was Scarlett, there were times when I could tell slightly by the word pattern, and
Okay.
your accent changes slightly, because your accent strongest is Danni.
Yeah.
And your tonal, the tone changes. With Scarlett, the wording changes slightly as well, because she's a bit younger than you, so she uses slightly different word structures.
Yeah.
And obviously, I noticed when Faith was in the background, although it hadn't fully come out, your sentences really slow down and really become quite nice and warm and fuzzy.
Like
and
that.
wonderful comes out, yeah.
I just heard that then. I was like, I don't use the word wonderful.
Did
like,
you
ever?
I think Faith actually responded there, didn't she?
I think so. I was like, I don't use wonderful. Like, that's not.
She's like, oh, that's wonderful. You picked that up. Oh, wait, I just spoke.
Yeah, I'm like, how many people are listening right now?
Well, that's a good question. Before we move on to roll the stats, which we'll do in a minute, we haven't asked the question we normally start with. Who are we today?
Danni.
Just Danni.
We pretty much have. We definitely have a Danni. Because I do this a lot with my sleeves, and I shuffle and I fidget a lot. To my knowledge, I haven't been messing with my hair, so I don't think there's a Luna around.
I don't think there is. I haven't seen you touch your hair yet. You did a little bit of this and that.
Okay. Yeah, it's pretty much just me. There's always someone else around.
There's always someone listening.
There's always someone listening. We're having a little bit of a rough time because we've got a couple of family kind of grievance sort of issues between friends and stuff. So chances are Anita will definitely be hovering around.
Just in case.
Faith apparently is hovering around, and she's usually around just to give me a hug. Like, so yeah, but like because we thought we're gonna roll some stats.
Yep.
Because I have absolutely no idea who I would be in a D&D world, and I've been thinking about this for ages. Like, I've always seen myself in, like, whenever I roleplay, I'm generally a ranger of some description. I'm generally an elfy type because I like to have a few magic abilities. And after that, it can vary greatly. And I think that depends on which altars are around when we're creating the characters. And I'm like, would I be a half elf? Would I be a halfling? I'm always kind of that sort of bit for me. And then I discovered changelings in the Eberron stuff, and they're the ones who like face and stuff changes quite a lot. And I was like, that's actually quite cool. Like that resonates a lot of D&D DID sort of things.
Well, I was going to say, if we thinking about this in terms of building not what D&D character you'd like to, or class you'd like to be, but what represents your place in the system and within your roles. You know, you be thinking about how we've built the others to mirror their personality, but also their role within the system. The changeling actually does fit what we were saying earlier about the fact that because you're the face of the system, you are the face that the rest of the system can hide behind if they need to, that they can use. But at the same time, you also have many faces, because you're the person that when a different alter is out, it's you that's there but not there. It's your physical body, but the face changes. And you've shown on Twitter before the photographs of the way you look different depending who is out. So I think in a lot of ways, I think the changing works really, really well for that aspect, and that sort of many face and many sort of persona aspect. You know, all you're then doing is developing the changelings' personas into your alters. So with the changelings, they can have several different personas of who they might be. Well, actually, your changelings' personas would be
the other
characters. But you are the sort of the link between those aspects. So I quite like changing works very, very well. And I think for the class, the ranger, in all fairness, you know, although you could argue that the dog stuff is a Danielle thing, I still think the dog thing is a Danni thing too.
Yeah.
And the animal thing is a Danni thing.
I think the animal stuff is definitely a Danni thing. I mean, the academic side of the animal stuff, I think, is where the line changes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think I as Danni, I think, would be like the dog trainer. I would be like the animal husbandry, the looking after them sort of thing, the interacting with them. I think as far as the behaviorist side of me that does more of the analysis, that comes up with very kind of stringent training plans and protocols and that kind of stuff, I think is all Danielle.
So have you thought with your ranger, if you went ranger, what you choose? Because you could then go for Beastmaster, because Beastmaster has a companion, and I think that works quite well for Danni because you have several companions.
I would always have a dog with me. So yeah, I would think if I did go for, because ranger's the one that kind of appeals to me most, because I'm not a run-in kind of fighter. I definitely wouldn't charge into a situation, but I wouldn't run away from it. I'd very much stay on the boundaries of a situation. And, you know, I enjoy archery just as a hobby. I'm very much more skilled in the range sports, but I can use a sword if need to be.
Okay.
Not as well as Sonia.
I think a ranger actually fits quite well. It's also, you know, there's that sort of natural nature element, the going out and being quite woodsy and outdoorsy, which
and tracking and stuff like that. I very much am into that kind of thing. And even when I go out with my son, is like I like showing him like the different leaves and trees and stuff, but I don't do it to the degree that Faith would.
Yeah, you see, and that's very different, because the druid would probably know everything about the plant, would probably have had a chat with the plant and made sure the plant was happy.
Yeah.
That's Faith. She sat down and she's just checked in and communicated with all the plants and know that they're all happy. Whereas the ranger, it's more about knowing that's edible, that's not edible.
Yeah. Whereas I could be like, okay, that's a herb that does this, that's a dock leaf that'll help you with like nettles and stuff. It's like, I'm not too sure what that one is.
Yeah, knowing the elements of the plant, you know, whether they're harmful, useful, what they can be used for, but probably doesn't know the emotional state of the plant, whereas Faith probably, that's why the druid worked really well. I think Faith is the kind of person that she knows the emotional state of the plant, the land, and everything.
Yeah.
So that's that kind of differentiation. See, so we started this with Danni coming on saying, I have an identity crisis, I don't know who Danni is. Well, you clearly do actually know what Danni is and who Danni is.
I'm actually quite surprised at how well I know myself.
There you go.
That's actually really helped me, because I've been like panicking about doing this video for ages. She's one of the reasons why it's taken so long for us
This
to
is why
actually,
this is the last one.
actually do it, because I've been like, I don't know who I am. Like, who am I? And like, I'm always this one, but is this really me? And I'm like, actually, I think it is. I think I would be a.
The conversations I've had with you and the conversations
Yeah.
I've had with you about your alters and with your alters, I personally feel that kind of the nature, that part of your nature side is very much more Danny than Faith.
Okay.
And the the animal side, I think the Beastmaster was brilliant. Having that sort of sidekick that's always with you, that's an animal, that's kind of your buddy in everything, because in a lot of ways your dogs are your buddies in everything.
Well, yeah, and because I have my assistance dogs, I always have a dog with me, and they help me and guide me in different situations for different reasons. So I think I would always have a companion. It doesn't have to be a dog. The companion that we choose, we can choose depending on what might fit the party best. But I would always have a companion. When I was younger, my companion was my iguana. I had an iguana for like 15 years. He was called Dexter, after Dexter Holland from The Offspring, for those that are wondering. And so I've always had to have some kind of companion of an animal with me, and I've always felt more comfortable with them around. So yeah, I think I like Beastmaster, and I think Changeling would suit me a lot, because I will change depending on the environments that I'm in anyway. So even if I'm not, because that's something that I've always known I could do. I now understand why, but I know that I can be feeling one thing, and as soon as I go into a different situation, I will be able to do the thing. I've never understood how I can do it or why. I've just assumed that everyone could just switch off from something and be something else. Turns out it's a superpower.
It's a superpower. So we have Ranger, we have Beastmaster, we have the race of Changeling. You got your dice with you? Let's roll those stats.
Let me find them. Been using them, so they're all pretty packing away.
So you want 4 d6.
4 d6. Let's see how many I've actually got. I'm losing. Yes. 4 d6. It's been a while since I've got some more dice. I think I should go on a dice hunt. Actually, if I get tickets to Dragon Meet, I'm pretty sure I can find some dice there.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll take you to some good dice places.
Dice shopping. Oh, dice shopping.
I will take you to the best dice places.
Okay.
Okay. So I roll this first 4 dice.
3, 3, 2, 4.
So we drop the 2. Okay. Again.
1, 3, 2, 5.
Okay. So drop that 1.
5, 3, 2, 4.
2.
2, 1, 5, 1. I'm quite a mid-range player so far. 4, 1, 5, 2.
Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one more roll.
4, 4, 4, 1. I don't get any 6s apparently. So.
No, but that's fine. We can work with that. That's not so bad. So we have now done the base stats, the base numbers for your
my active.
all of your active alters. So the choice next is, do we, and actually, do you know what, we'll leave this, if you want to have a say, we can either now go back over those active alters and fluff them out, build their characters and spend a session on each one of them. Or we can now look at how we would translate the passive alters and look at and discuss about those. So basically, Danny, have a think. Do you want to talk about your passive alters next, or stay active with your active alters? Internet, what are you interested in? Do you want to learn more about these active alters and get further into their creation and see if we can perhaps meet more of them? Perhaps see if Faith will actually come and talk to us this time, and whether Scarlet will actually admit she's there. Or do you want to find out more about what a passive alter is and how that works, and then we can start exploring the stats of passive alters.
let us know.
That's
Because we want to educate you guys as much as possible. Of course, we want to do all the D&D stuff as well. So when we're building the characters, we will be showing you like how to build a death cleric, how to build a furball druid, you know, because we'll be doing it on screen. So we'll help you with that as well, which will be interesting for anyone that's into D&D. But yeah, do you want to know about the passive alters? And they're the ones that it's very rare that they switch and come to the front fully. They mostly they affect me passively, so I'm always there, but I will suddenly feel really scared, or suddenly I will be really happy, or I'll be silent for some reason and be unable to talk, or sometimes I get locked in my body and I can't move for a while, which I think I've talked about, I'm not sure, because one of my passive alters is freaking out inside, and I'm like, I can't do anything today because they're freaking out and I can't move my body. And those things happen, and they're the not so nice sides of the disorder.
Yeah. So let us know, internet feedback, where you want us to go next. Obviously, bear in mind that it will be Danny down to having the final say with what she feels comfortable talking about, depending where she's at and how she's feeling. You know,
you can always ask us anything.
Always ask. So that was a slightly more condensed, quicker one. Actually, what was interesting, we got Danny down quicker than we'd done any of the others, and you were so worried about doing Danny, but you know yourself. Really see, you know yourself.
I know myself a bit better than I thought I did, which is nice. So, yeah.
But internet, it was been a pleasure. I hope this was informative and interesting. Feedback if you want.
Yeah.
You know, hashtag. It'll be on the screen. I can't bother to say it, but it's there right now on the screen. Yeah. Or, you know, tweet us. It's on the screen right now. Here, see, look. It's there. Let's see if Danny can line this up.
Oh, that's a start.
I said it.
Yeah. And see if our hands actually match as well.
But thank you.
Okay. So, and we'll see you next time.